Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because you know God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
Welcome. Glad to have you on the Best Known Church Show, where we're going to teach you how to go from unknown to best known, because that's what we're talking about today. Specifically is going into the specifics, because Pastor, I know that you could make a greater impact in your community and a greater impact for the kingdom if more people just knew about your church. So today we're going to talk about how to take your church to go from unknown to best known, focusing on the 3 pillars that every church needs to become the light on the hill, to become as well known, nay, better known than Walmart. And if we haven't met, my name is Justin Nava. I've been doing church marketing, church ministry, church communications, whatever you want to call it, for too long for me to count, over a decade. And, Nava Church Marketing was really founded to help you reach 10 times more people. You're going to hear us say that a lot, 10 times. Okay, it comes from Grant Cardone's 10X rule. It's a secular business book, but it's a great book, a lot of insight in that. And a lot of pastors will say, I just want to double our church size. And what happens when you end up doubling or going for double, but only meet about half your goal? You end up only going 1.5. So instead, let's shoot for 10 times. And hey, if we fall short, we're still going to be better than double. And that's where this 10X kind of rule comes from, is from Grant Cardone. And that's why I love using this. You'll see me use the hashtag 10X Church, 10X your outreach, 10X your reach. That's really kind of the mindset that we need to get into, and the mindset that kind of came across our 3 core beliefs that we really hold on to: outrageous vision, unreasonable faith, and relentless execution. And so that's really what this comes from. And that's our 3 core values, but really the 3 pillars kind of reflects that in what we have to do to get your church known. We work with churches across the nation, in America, to help them go from unknown to best known. We've got churches that are doing amazing work. They're selling out their local missions. They're running out of the supplies. They're having to go get more donations, more donors, and people are excited. People want to give to an empty food pantry. They don't want to give to one that's already full. And in order to empty out your food pantry, empty out your coat closet, empty out your benevolence fund, to increase your missions budget, to increase your ministry budget, to increase your decisions, your next steps, your event registrations, and your growth on Sundays, you have to go out there and get known. It will not happen organically. God is calling people to your church, and we have to do everything we can to remove the stumbling blocks and to be louder than the noise out there, rise above it, and be the best known organization in the community. Not the best church, not the best religious organization, not the best nonprofit, the best known. People should know you better than they know Walmart. And that's what we're talking about today. Let me tell you a story. When I used to work in a town called in Killeen, Texas, we went to a burger joint, and it was the best burger I've ever had. It was that double meat. You could get triple meat, but I got the double meat, bacon, just like the good kind of greasy, great fries, great milkshakes. Dude, it was the best burger I've ever eaten. And it was great. It was a local run joint. Oh, it was amazing. So one day after church, I told my wife, I said, you know what? Burger really sounds good. And she said, yeah, I'd love to get a burger. And I said, there's this great place that didn't just open up, but we just found out about it. I had it last week. Let's go stop by there. Of course, my wife doesn't just take my word for it. She says, well, that sounds pretty good. Let me look up their website and see what they have, right? Because my wife, God bless her, she's all about the sides. And so the burgers should be good, but also they should have good fries, maybe good fixings, stuff that she likes to have on the side, right? If we go to a restaurant, she's looking at the sides before she looks at the entree. So she wants to go and see everything that she can expect to see from this burger joint. And she goes online, and there's a few Yelp reviews, a few Google reviews. Their website has a basic menu. There's no pictures. And she wants a burger But she's not ready to go to this burger place. No matter what I told her, no matter how good I said it was, oh, it's perfect. It's that good kind of greasy burger, which to us is a compliment. I know that sounds kind of weird because you can't have a burger that's too greasy. It was one of the best burgers I've had in town. But because she couldn't validate what her own husband said, she's like, well, it is a little bit of a risk. I've never been here. I can't see what I'm walking into. So let's go to somewhere we already know. Let's go to somewhere we've already been. And I'm like, oh, please, we got to go try this burger. She's like, I'm just not ready to be disappointed for lunch today. She was probably low blood sugar, whatever it is. She's like, I'm not ready to take that risk. And this happens time and time again. No matter what business or organization you're in, people will hear what you say, but they will trust what others say about you. Okay, let me rephrase. Let me say that again. Repeat the line. People will hear what you say, but they will listen to what others say. Okay. So I can say, you ever had that, husbands? You ever had, or even wives with your husbands, you say something, and then they hear it from someone else. Your friends or family hears it from someone else, and you're like, oh, I've been telling you this whole time, but you finally listen, mate. You know, it's just a law of life. And so no matter what we say about us, people will listen to what others have to say. And even when they hear it from their friends, if there is no external source to back it up and verify the claims, they will not trust it. There is a little bit of risk involved. Name recognition, brand recognition is all part of marketing and branding. And these are, if you didn't listen to the show last week, go listen to that, because there's a huge section in there that people are not trusting the church. They know more of what the church is against than what it's for. And so because of that, it's a little bit of a risk nowadays to go to church. And I'm not going to fault that of them. You know, there's two ways to look at this. There's the way things should be, and there's the way things are. We need to get our head out of the sand, church, pastor. We need to get our head out of the sand and stop saying this is the way it should be. We have to recognize that this is the way things are. People are distracted. People are easily distracted. People are hurting. People have been hurt. It is a risk for people to go to church on Sunday, especially if they've never been there. So today I want to really focus in. What are the three things we need to focus on? Now, you're not going to do just these three things and everything's going to work, okay? It's going to be some steps in between, but we've kind of highlighted the three things that you need, the three pillars, so to speak, of what you need to do and the mindset that you really need to be in to become better known in your community. And I want to make you the best known, okay? Everyone in Houston knows about Lakewood. Everyone in the DFW area knows about Gateway. We want to make you one of those churches, and you don't have to be big, okay? Everyone in my town knows about First Baptist Spring. And even though it's a First Baptist, it's not a mega church. I know that sounds weird, right? But everyone knows about them. Everyone in Edinburgh knew about First Baptist Edinburgh. We were one of the smallest churches in town, but everyone, especially in our neighborhood, knew about our church. And that's what was important. We didn't want to be nationwide known. We wanted to be worldwide known. We wanted to be known by the people we were called to serve. And that meant following these three pillars in the way that made sense to us. I am not here to give you a cookie cutter solution. I'm not going to give you some templates and say, hey, take one, call me in the morning. Okay, I'm not here to do that. I am here to walk you through how to figure out what your church needs to do. Not what most churches, not what we've seen work with some churches, what your church needs to do to go from unknown to best known. So let's jump into it. And if wherever you are, like, subscribe, comment, let me know your biggest question you're facing in your church, getting more people to know about you, to trust you. I don't think they need to like you, but once they do know about you, they will either like or hate you. And guess what? If God is calling to them to come to a gathering of believers, I would rather it be your church pastor than another church that's doing all this work but doesn't have the gospel behind it. That is the sad truth. And again, we have the way things should be and the way things are. So I want to make your church better known, not to fill the seats, not to increase spending, not to increase donations, to grow the kingdom, make more disciples, make a bigger impact in the people you're called to serve. So if we like, comment, whatever, check us out, NavaChurchMarketing.com. Before we get into this, I'm going to show you the highlight here of what all this comes down to. This is the Definiting Church Marketing Method. This is what we use to help churches go from unknown to best known. And we are focusing on the three phases. These are the three pillars that you need to go from unknown to best known. And the first one, I'm going to be honest, guys, the first one is the most boring. It is also the one that few churches do, and it is the one that allows many churches to die. This isn't something that kills churches by not having. However, it is a symptom many churches that are dying do not have. And that is a strong branding foundation, or really more simply, not marketing terms, knowing who you are, clarifying who you are. Who are you? Who are you equipped to serve? How do people get involved with you? What can they expect? You need to answer all these questions beyond, well, we meet on Sundays and we have nursery while we meet. Oh, and there's a Wednesday night prayer meeting. Bro, that's everyone's church. There is something unique about your church. If every church was supposed to pretty much be the same, we would only have one church in town. And if location was an issue, we would have multiple campuses. Every church is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. And God is calling hundreds of thousands of churches every year to be planted, to start up, to come from nothing and grow, because there is a need. There is a people in that community that is not being served by the existing churches. That's not a bad thing. It's just that we need a different kind of church to communicate the same message in a new medium, in a new way, in a new style. We're not sacrificing the message. We're just updating the medium. And it doesn't mean the old medium has to die. It just means that there is someone who that current way is not being communicated to, and there is a new way that God is calling you to be involved in his calling of other people's lives. It's not a bad thing. So the first thing you got to know is, who are you? And why, if God is calling me to church, why should I go to your church and not someone else's church? Again, this isn't competing. This is supporting. Okay? We tell people all this all the time when it comes to marriage, right? Wives, your husband is your husband. He can be your best friend. He ain't going to understand everything you're going through. And women, same thing about your husbands. You might be your husband's best friend. Great. However, you cannot be his sole, support chain, right? He needs someone else. He needs another group of guys. He needs an older guy. He needs a similar guy. He needs his dad. He needs brothers or family, someone that he can go to and communicate and be understood and bounce ideas off of and sound off of in a way that, the wife just isn't equipped or called to be that. It's very dangerous. We know this. It's very dangerous when a couple is their own support chain. It's very tough. And so the same way in our communities, if my church is not equipped to serve this family or this person, it's okay for them to go to another church or vice versa. And I'm not talking about church transplanting where we're constantly battling who has the biggest kids place, who has the coolest music, and these people keep transplanting back and forth between churches. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying we have your church because you are communicating in a way, your preaching style, your music style, your people, the way you do groups, your kids teachers. I've been in great churches that had terrible kids ministries. And if you asked anyone, hey, what do you think about this church's kids ministry? They would tell you it's great. It wasn't for my daughter. It wasn't for her. She needs a smaller environment. She can't go to we can, but she doesn't thrive as well in a larger group environment. She needs the smaller classroom. She thrives under older leadership, not younger leadership. There's nothing wrong with a 20-year-old teaching VBS. She just does better with maturity. It's the weirdest thing. And I'm not saying, gosh, you got to be careful what you say these days because everyone's going to clip you and make you look stupid. But, it's just how she is. She resonates with the older folk, and I love that. And so that's one of the things that we keep in mind when we go visit a church, go look for a church. So you have to know who you are. Let me go back to that. You have to know who you are, your branding foundation. This is the most important part that so many people skip. We do all the work to get our mission clarified and our vision and our slogan and all this, but all it is just a reproduction of what's already out there. Disciples who disciple, right? You need to find out what is your unique church story, your framing, your narrative, whatever you want to call it. Why do you exist? One of my clients, I love the way he put this. He said, we're a church that's a small church and we're probably always going to be a church because we're a sending church. But not only that, he said this, if Paul called Timothy his soldier, then we can look at the general church as the army. And our congregational body is the Navy SEALs. or the Army Rangers, whatever you want to call them. And I love that because he knows my church is not for the everyday Christian. It's our church. We take deep dives and we hold each other to an accountability that's normally reserved for pastors, but we do it congregation wide. We meet in a way that's not traditional to other churches, even though you might hear that and you think, well, that's an old school church. They don't meet in a way that most churches do, right? And then they're Ascending Church. They want to have a mission base where if someone is trained up, they don't want their church to be a coffin for that saint. They want to send that saint out to go evangelize, disciple, and start other churches, right? I think that's great. And so because of that, you cannot roll into this church at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning and just expect to sit on a pew in the back and sing some songs and get a nice message and go home. They will challenge you. They will meet you. They won't call you out and say, hey, confess your sins right now. However, they will greet you, hold your hand, and encourage you and spur you on to do greater things for the purpose through which God has called you. Some of you pastors are listening to this and you're like, dude, that's awesome. I love that. We need more churches like that. There are plenty of churches like that. They just don't communicate who they are because they haven't spent the time to put that to pen, put that to paper and say, this is who we are. This is the line we draw. If you are a Christian and this isn't for you, that's okay. Go somewhere else. God be with you. God bless. Godspeed. And if you are somewhere else, or if you have tried Christianity before and Jesus called you, but you couldn't find a church that really fed you, this is the place. This is the place where we get steak rare. That's my words, not his. You know, this is a place, I don't want to say for manly Christians or whatever, but this is a place for Christians that are ready to put on the armor of God and ready to stand on the front lines, right? That's what this church is. And you're like, yes. But you go to their website before we started working with them and it just said, Sundays at 10 a.m. We got kids church. Hey, we'd love to meet you. Welcome home. That doesn't communicate who this church is. Maybe you're a church for the older folk. I love telling this story. I tell the story all the time. I got several boomer church clients because everyone else tells them, oh, you got to focus on the family. You're not going to grow. This church is like, no, we are equipped to find and reach the people and serve the people that everyone else has left behind. All these churches are focused on the family. They're focused on having great children's ministry, and they're leaving their senior adults behind. Meanwhile, these senior adults are discipling other senior adults, but when they go to church, they're a fly on the wall. So they say, we're not standing for that. We are a place to equip the saints. And when I say saints, I mean like the older saints, to not give up on discipleship, to not give up on fellowship, to not give up on community, and to let them know that everyone else in life has left you behind, but Jesus has not. And we are here for you. And we are unashamedly not having kids church because you might have grandkids, but we're not going to have a kids ministry that meets every week. And you either hear that and you're like, that is not for me. Or you hear that and say, that is for me. Or that is for my grandmother. I tell you what, that's for my dad. My dad just wants to go to a church and sing the hymns he sang growing up to a piano or maybe a classical guitar because we're Hispanic. We use guitars in church. And, you know, he wants to have a good, solid message. And he wants to shake some hands and be encouraged and be checked in on every few days, you know, by the pastor, by a leader, by someone else in church. He wants that old school church experience. You can't get that where he is. There needs to be a church planted that says, if you feel like the church has left you behind, we are here for you because Jesus is still here for you. That is what knowing who you are and clarifying your message and knowing your story, your narrative, who you are, why you are, and how you are, and communicate who that is. The people who are happy dying in church do not get this message. They say, we're just another church. We're just going to do our thing, and we're going to keep watering this dead plant because nothing needs to change. Why should we have to clarify our messaging? Why should we have to worry about our story? We've never done that before, and you will die doing the same thing you've always done. You have to not change the message, but change the medium and change the way the message is presented. And today in 2022, and this is not ending this year, this is going beyond, you have to know who you are and you have to be able to communicate that. This is way beyond a logo, okay? If you look at phase 1 here, branding foundation, this is clarifying who you are. You want to be clear, be memorable, and be intentional. The logo part is 1/3 of this. You have to know who you are. Until you know who you are, you will redo your website every other year. You will always be unhappy with your logo, even after you pay thousands of dollars to redo it. And you will always be unhappy with the kind of person that comes to your church because you're presenting yourself in a way that just makes you seem like any other church. And people come expecting one thing and not seeing another, or hoping they see something and not getting it. Or assuming if you are doing something different and something meaningful and something encouraging and spurring one another, they come to your church thinking you're just like everyone else. And when you try to get to know them, they're like, they didn't get to know me at my last church. I'm out of here. And that can present a stumbling block in them next time because they feel God's pull and like, I got to go to church, but that last one wasn't what I wanted it to be. And so I won't go. So it's very, very important to know who you are. I love to follow, you can't see my bookshelf on screen anymore. I love to follow the StoryBrand method. We do that at Nava Church Marketing. When you sign on with us, the first thing we do is run you through StoryBrand because that will dictate how we present you in a way that's understandable and communicates the right message to the right people in the right way. You got to start with that. From knowing who you are, then you can figure out what's my logo going to look like. It's got to be an identifying mark. Again, we've got an old episode about that. What makes a good logo? The questions you need to ask to make a good logo. Pastor, don't go through any of that stuff. That's more for the church communicators, church leaders, or the pastors who have experience with that. If you've never made a logo before and you've never done graphic design experience before, give us a call, 832-861-7654. We'll do it for you, okay? Excuse me. And then you've got to put all that together for your website. Now, the website kind of blends into phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, knowing who you are, that's got to show up on the website. When people go online and they find your church, for God willing, they type churches near me or Baptist churches near me or Bible believing churches near me, even kids ministries near me. And they come across your church website, you have to be able to present yourself in a way that's understandable and actionable to the people you're called to serve. If you're called to serve people who have been burned by the church, why does your website look like every other church that they've been burned by? Right? You keep watering. I keep saying this because it posted on Facebook this morning. You got to stop watering that dead plant. If something isn't working, don't think a new version of that something is going to be better. Right? It's like that in The Office when Stanley's like, I do not apologize. My ex-wife left me because I did not apologize. My current wife will leave me because I do not apologize. And the next wife will leave me because I did not apologize. That's not the exact ways, but that's the same thing. It's like we don't change. You wonder why things keep happening the same ways because we're not changing. We're just updating the same thing. We're constantly overweight, and we think that changing our shirt is going to help us lose weight. Nah, dude, it's the donuts and the Doritos and the tacos. The unhealthy tacos. I eat a lot of tacos, but I try to make it healthier. That's what it is. And so instead of actually getting down and exercising and doing the work, we just change our shirts and hope vertical stripes will make us look thinner. It's not what it's about. We have to change the way we're doing things. So your website needs to be understandable to the people you're called to serve and actionable to the people you're called to serve. If you're going towards families, don't make them jump through a bunch of hoops and demand a bunch of their time on days when they're busy. It's understandable, right? They need to take action. They need to do something, but make it in a way that they can take action. Don't expect them to say, hey, by the way, if you're a family here, we'd love to meet you. Go grab your kids and then drag them over to this boring welcome center. Like, make it something that they want to do. Right? Make your website something that they can take action on. Now, you've got to figure out who you are, and then you have to maximize your discoverability, which is basically making sure that people can find you. Okay? And this is where, we've got the be accurate, be found, be represented. You have to have a good website that people can find you on and actually use and figure out who you are. A one-page website is great for a plant church. It's not great for an established church. Okay? If you know who you are, then you know kind of what the different ways your ministries plug into who that is, right? If you are a church for young families, Then you've got kids ministry, you've got nurseries, you've got young adult classes, you've got marriage classes, you've got finance classes, you've got local missions that work around the schedule of busy families. You meet, maybe on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights because that every other day is taken up by extracurriculars. So all these things. You need to be able to plug them into your website so people can actually use it. And a one-page website gives an overview, but it doesn't give a lot of depth, right? You're getting that shallow information. You need to have an action plan to let people get the information and then inspire and call them to action. So if you know who you are and what you want people to do, that means that you can then call them to the primary action. If someone comes to your website and they can only do one thing and one thing only, what is that one thing you want them to do? Plan a visit, watch a sermon, call the church and have coffee with the pastor, whatever it is. You can then formulate your website around that message and around that action. So that I need this page or this page and not this page. Don't put a kids page up just because you're supposed to have a kids page. If you don't have the information for it and how it fits into your story and who you are, don't put a kids page up because it looks weird. It looks weird when you're like, yes, life is hard. Jesus is easy. We'd love to have you. We've got these great ministries for your family. And we want to make sure that you don't live another single day without the hope of Jesus and the purpose he's called you to. It gets better than this. Jesus is easy. And then they go to the kids ministry and it's like, oh, kids meet at 9:30. How about kids deserve Jesus just as much as any other grown-up? Life is leaving them behind. Again, right? No child left behind. The school is a mess. You barely get enough time with them as it is. The internet is moving faster than they are. And it's tough being a kid. They don't have much direction in life. They're being told one thing by God-fearing parents. They're being told another thing by secular schools, by secular friends. The TV is just constantly going from one thing to another. They have a million questions, and unfortunately, they have a billion answers. It's tough being a kid. But here we know there is only one answer, and there is a better and best way to live. And we have age-appropriate learning that's fun, creative, exciting, and we want to see them build real, meaningful relationships and live in a community just like their parents. Live in community, not like live in a community. Live in community just like their parents. The things we have for you, parents, we've got for your kids too in an age-appropriate setting that they're going to enjoy just as much, if not more, than what you're doing. That's huge. Now, don't put all that in a paragraph. There is certain design elements there. But that's what you got to think about. Once you know who you are, you have to maximize your discoverability, because once you have that good website that loads fast, that has accurate representation of your church in pictures and in text, then you can focus on appearing better in search results. Because if someone says, you know what, God's calling me to church, there is something more to this. I just went through divorce and I need something to fill that hole that my wife was filling, or that I was trying to fill with my wife. Maybe the church can help. Let me go to mosaicchurch.com. Not picking on Mosaic if that's a real church. I just made something up. They're not going to do that. They're going to go to Google. They're going to go to churches near me. They're going to go to Google Maps. They won't even go to search. They'll go to Maps. What churches are around here? Oh yeah, that church, that it looks boring. That one's got an empty sanctuary. Not sure what that is. That one just looks like a house. That's weird. I guess I'll go to this one here that I can just blend in the background. When really God has prepared a place for you to witness and minister and disciple that person. Instead, because you didn't do basic search engine optimization, they're just going to pass you by and go to the easy place. And God forbid they go there for 2 or 3 weeks and they say, this is boring. This is not for me. No one's even said hi to me. I can't meet the pastor afterwards. I called them and they never called me back. Guess it's not church that's going to fill that hole in my heart. I shudder to think. So the second step really, the part of the maximize discoverability pillar is to be found in Google, to look good in not only Google, but also Maps. And then not only that, in your representation, your reputation. It says be represented. It really should say be reputable. I just don't like that word. It's not an easy word. You've got to have good reviews online. And like I said, this is one of those things. It's not the way it should be. It's the way it is. Okay. You've got to have people talking up your church online in Yelp reviews and Google reviews and Facebook reviews, commenting on things. There's a way that you can make it. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a way that you can make that happen legitimately and ethically without doing fake things. You know, you got to be careful. The FTC is cracking down on people that are trying to force positive reviews and shove away negative reviews, make it hard to leave a negative review. So you got to be careful with that. There is a right way to do that. When you maximize your discoverability by having an understandable and actionable website, by being found in Google and Google Maps, by having good reviews, you maximize your discoverability to where you send the signals to that necessary evil big tech. And someone says, we're looking for a church. They're going to look at your website and say, this is a good website. This has real information on it. This has real inspiration on it. They're going to look at your SEO and they're going to say, he's obviously taken the time to make sure his website is up to our standards, to make sure their local reputation is up to our standards. And hey, people are talking about them in a really good way. So when Joe Smith over here searches for churches near me or searches for divorce counseling, you know what? This church seems to have their head on a stick. Let me recommend them to him. Right? That's what I mean by maximize discoverability. Because when people realize a need, I need help with my marriage, they're going to go to who they know. I only know a bunch of divorced people. That's why I'm in trouble. They're going to go to who their friends know. Well, obviously they don't know anyone to help them with divorce. They're all divorced. Then they're going to go to Google. What does Google know? And the sad fact is many people are searching for churches on Google. It's just the way it is. No amount of clever signage or easy to use banners or mailers are going to help you. People are going to go search on Google. Thousands of people in a small city are going to search Google for information about churches near them. It's just a fact. So you have to maximize your discoverability. And guess what? It's going to be a lot easier because you know who you are. I can't tell you how many people are stuck in websites. They pay me hundreds of dollars for coaching saying, I don't know what to put on my website. And I say, who are you? And they say, I don't know. We're just a church. That's why you don't know what to put on your website. You don't know who you are. It's like having amnesia and trying to go on a blind date. Tell me about yourself. I don't know who I am. I just woke up this morning, Sunday morning at 9:30. You have to do that work. That's why it is a system. It is a path. It is a method. We have over a decade of work calculated with fine precision how to go from unknown to best known. It all comes down to knowing who you are and then maximizing your discoverability. But that's not it. That's not how you go from unknown to best known. That's how you go from unknown to at least known by the people looking for you. It's not enough. Jesus didn't say, go and baptize the people that ask about me. Right? No, we got to go out into the world. And that's why the last pillar, or phase, if you will, the last phase is increase awareness. You have to go out, pastor, and you have to grab attention. Not just you, but your church. And guess what? If you've done the first two pillars, if you've figured out and clarified your message and know who you are and make you easily represented and actually maximize your discovery online, then it becomes incredibly easy to increase your attention, because not only are you promoting to the community, you're also promoting to your church, your staff, and yourself. And it becomes so much easier to say, I want you to come to this church. Have you seen what this church is doing online? Check it out. Go Google it. See all the people that are like us. See all the stories about us. See what God is doing in this church. See how many people we fed. All those crazy pastors that are going viral on TikTok, they are not the real church. This is the real deal. Versus, hey, come on Sunday morning. Lord, please don't let them find us online. Boring. Doesn't work. I know many times I invited people to church and they're like, oh, tell me more about it. I'm like, do they have an Instagram? And I'm like, no. Even though we did, it was mostly quote posts until I got a hold of it. Now it's banging. I love it. Sorry, that was just me being young for a second. So you have to, when you do the first two phases, you not only amp yourself up, you not only amp your staff up, but you also amp your congregation up. So it's easier for them to go share. It's one thing to go give out an invite card. It's another thing to say, have you heard about this church? And they say, oh yeah, I have heard about that. I saw something about, hey, That makes it so much easier for me to invite if they've already heard about me. It makes it harder when they say, hey, have you heard about my church? It's over on Gosling. And they're like, oh, yeah, I drive past that every morning. There's a church over there? Already, you are setting yourself below the bar. So you have to increase attention. Google will give you $10,000 a month if you're a 501c3 nonprofit church. Google will give you $120,000 a year to promote yourself to your community and even the nation if you're so called to. It's huge. Facebook. One of the unknown blessings of the crazy times that we're about to enter into is that Facebook ads are about to get really cheap again. The cost has gone up. The price is going to drop, I've heard, as low as 40% of what it is now. And so that's an incredibly easy way. $100 can not get you many flyers. $100 can get you in front of thousands of people. And again, it's a numbers game. You've got to make contacts. You've got to make connections. You've got to make touch points. And you have to go out there and get that. And then not only that, you have to be everywhere. That's the last part of this, to increase awareness. Pastor, you already play figurehead in the business meetings. You already play figurehead in important organizational decisions. You may be on a council or a committee or head of council or be de facto on a council, whatever it is. The fact is that you are the head of the church. You're the shepherd. Therefore, you are a representative of the church. So you need to also be everywhere, not just your church. Make appearances on your local broadcast. Submit what's happening in your church as a press release, a piece of news to the newspaper. Because that reference gives authority signals. And again, it's just another touch point. Okay. Go on local broadcasts. Go get interviewed by the local morning DJ. It can be weird sometimes. Again, it's you don't go out on the radio and get interviewed by the morning DJ to see 1,000 people come to church on Sunday. You go so that the 100 people out of those 100,000 that are listening, that are feeling God's call, but haven't found a church home or haven't found the answers that they need, they say, you know what? I didn't hear about that church. They might have an answer for me. It's a numbers game. We got to stop getting so concerned with, we put out 10,000 whatevers and we only got 100 back. It's a numbers game. If you put out 100, you're getting none back. You've got to increase your action. You've got to increase your numbers. You've got to increase your time and energy spent getting more attention. Okay? Because in business, we have this phrase, money follows attention. In the gospel, people listening follows attention. They will pay attention to what you have to say based on how much attention you can garner from them. And you can't do that if you haven't already done the footwork and knowing who you are and knowing how you serve and knowing who you're called to serve. And then making sure that you have all the proper markers in place so that when you do increase that attention, you have something to show them. Imagine trying to go out and disciple and preach on a street corner after you just prayed the sinner's prayer, which I know does not necessarily mean you are a born-again believer. However, I think what we have a lot of churches doing nowadays is the equivalent of just praying the sinner's prayer and then trying to go out and preach. They just put out a website. They make a Facebook page. And then they go out and try to grab all this attention when there's nothing to see about what the church is doing, how the church serves, what we can expect. They cut a cookie and then expect everyone to pay premium gourmet prices for it. That's not the way the world works anymore. More and more people, not just young people. It is not just a young person thing. I hear older folk my age, 10 years, 20, 30 years older than me. I'm 30 something, 35. I'm 34. I'll be 35 in October. I hear people generations above me say the same things that generations below me say. The church has lost its way. It used to be something, and now it's just a bunch of crazies. The church has been politicized. It's full of Christian nationals. It's full of white evangelicals. I can't trust it. There's too much. They're hypocrites. There's a hierarchy to it. Not for me. I tried it when I was young. Not for me anymore. This is the world we live in. And in order for your church to make a difference, more people have to know you, but they also have to be able to trust you. You have to give them something to trust in. And I'm not saying that all of this replaces God and replaces Jesus. You are the messenger. But people have to trust the messenger. This is how you get there. There are churches that are closing down right now every year because of inaction. We know this. Thousands of churches closing their doors. And this was even pre-Panini. I don't want to get blocked by YouTube. They're closing down because of inaction, but I don't think all of those churches that closed down, I don't think all of them had the desire for inaction. Meaning they wanted to do more. But they didn't know how to grab the community's attention. They didn't know how to be to create a more meaningful place in the community. They were there in their church, ready to accept anyone who came, ready to disciple them, ready to do life with them, ready to do community with them, ready to open up their homes to these people in the name of Jesus. But nobody knew they existed. Pastor, you feel unknown. Your church feels unknown because you've been doing what hasn't gotten you to that next step. And seminary doesn't prepare you for this. Goodness, even marketing and communications degree don't prepare you for what's going on right now. You need someone in your corner. You need a plan. You need a process. That's exactly what I gave you today. You need to set your foundation and clarify who you are. You need to maximize your discoverability online. Everything's online right now, and then you need to go out and grab that attention, and you need to have something to show them. Because the last thing I want for you is to be in a place where you are willing, but it seems like the harvest is not plentiful. The harvest is plenty. We need to use the right tools to make the harvest. And the tools we used before and the methods we relied on before are working less and less today. And that's why this is here. That's why this show is here, the best known church show to help you 10x your church outreach, not only this year in 2022 and beyond. So evaluate your message. Is it boring? Is it generic? Is it unique? How does your church message sound online and in person? Evaluate your rep presence. Can you find your church? Can you see a good reputation? And ask people around town if they've heard of you. If not, these are the people you need to grab their attention. And not in an annoying, pervasive way. In a way that says, we are here to serve you. We'd love to serve you. How can we serve you? That's what this is all about. Take all these things, make a greater impact. If you have any questions, you'll hear our number at the end, 832-861-7654. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe wherever you are, and I'll see you next week.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.